So it's time to travel to a very remote and reputedly eye-catching place to explore it and fish it. A spot that is genuinely in the wilderness, the Sand Patch Wilderness within Croajingalong National Park, which is 883 square kilometres of park, and it is listed as a UNESCO World Biosphere Area. It's obviously environmentally significant. But I still thought travelling through said wilderness would be like this. But instead, it was more like this. I became a human martini, both shaken and stirred. But I got there on a wing and a prayer, and behind me lay a trail of assorted car parts which at least provided the breadcrumbs back to civilization. Oh my God, he's already on the water. One could imagine a collaborative, comrades approach to the shared experience. What do I witness? An individualistic full-bore charge towards one-out indifference, and I become wrapped in pangs of neglect. And then...
I've already got a Trevor in the boat. I gave it to that guy for his information. I gave him the Trevor, yeah. Don't tell Gerard.
The one thing that no individual could hog was the absolute beauty of this place. The gallery security should have probably expelled us for wandering through this magnificent natural portrait. This was the antithesis of suburbia, where you'd pick a screensaver or wander around a gallery and look at a photo or portrait of a beautiful spot, location or landscape. That is a human creation, a portrait of a beautiful spot capturing and displaying that beauty. But what does it really capture and display? To actually stand amidst what the painting portrays, that emotional experience, that visual, visceral and auditory experience, that sublime experience, cannot be captured, reproduced and displayed by paint, canvas, digital photography, or even the most sophisticated 3D CGI illusion. A work that looks beautiful on a gallery wall is not the same as being immersed in this beauty. An artwork is ultimately a very shallow faux copy of the original experience, a cheap factotum. For a real experience, you have to go to the spot, the place, the vista that inspired the work, and stand and feel and see and experience with all of your senses. Of course, we now have 3D tech constructions of reality and virtual holograms, which proclaim that you can immerse yourself in the experience. But you actually don't, and you can't immerse yourself in the actual place unless you are standing there with all of your senses open to the sights, sounds, smells, feel, and the existential emotional wash of a place, which even the most sophisticated technology can only poorly and crudely ape or supposedly recreate. Tech constructions are ultimately rendered depictions and artistic constructs. Rather than standing in the surf, you can stand in a rendered facsimile of the surf. Your brain registers the experience, which is a copy. Is your brain fooled into believing that the copy is as real as the physical body literally standing in the surf? The real is being subverted, subsumed, and commodified by the human replica, construct or facsimile, which of course is purchasable for a price via an app or a download. We hear the line that one day the construct will be lifelike, in that it will fire the corresponding synapses in some part of our cranial cortex, which will be triggered by the real experience. Your brain can think your arm is there after it has been amputated. Synapses in the brain provide that ghostly impression. Synapses are also triggered when you stand in the surf. One day, a facsimile will trigger those synapses, so the construct of the surf will embody precisely the same visceral experience as the actual corporeal form of standing in the surf. Why leave that comfortable small room with the glowing screen in front of you? An endless supply of mass cultural corporate food, corporate music, images, apps and downloads, hooked into a mass cultural corporate drip in a comatose state. Why leave? Well, here we were, salaciously and seductively wallowing in the beauty of this magnificent inlet. But, bugger the beauty, you can't simply indulgently wallow in it, in that natural beauty. We're actually here to explore. It was time to meander around the waterway. This large, expansive space, when seated in a kayak especially. And I was after a feed of fish. As Gerard would say, it was a catch and release expedition. That is, catch, fillet and release. So damn it, didn't hook that one. Dropped that one. And then to catch a bream the size of a gnat, where the local ticks were bigger than the fish. So no success, so a change of technique, from casting to snags to trolling. And this was the main technique I was employing during the session, that is, trolling small, shallow-running lures behind a lazily propelled kayak. And Peter, in the Bismarck, would often wander a different path to myself. Which begs the question, why do I call Peter's vessel the Bismarck? Well, beside my undersized splinter, with the manoeuvrability of a shopping trolley, it's a comparative fishing battleship. And to be honest, I was in the thrall of the green-eyed monster, watching Peter comfortably cruising along while I waddled and cursed awkwardly. Sometimes I did need to keep a sharper and more attentive eye on where Peter was. He scrounged up a different culinary treat. And was yours truly offered any? We discovered a corner which held a mob of chopper tailor, mob being the appropriate word, as they behave as if it's a 2 a.m. nightclub lockout. Tailor are the rainbow lorikeets of the Piscean world. It's all fight, 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 and bite, bite, bite. Now, their bullying nature is clearly demonstrated when two fish attack the same lure and both are briefly hooked, one on the front treble and one on the back treble, as you can just make out. Peter also found the little monsters milling around angrily. They even have that lower lip pulled up to look like a schoolyard bully.
It's a little tailor. It's a little tailor. Just on the you know what eco gear vibe. Nice little chopper. And gone.
Peter is the most innovative fisher person that I know, always pushing multiple envelopes when I would just lick and seal them. He is sublime at the act of casting, and his ability to cross traditional boundaries into new frontiers in this endeavour is unsurpassed. Peter in the past had demonstrated the tricky bow and arrow cast to me, but here Peter invents a new and extremely precise casting technique. Now he demonstrates the snag and arrow cast, which delivers the lure precisely to where the fish are. Behind you.
Did you get that? Oh, I dropped him. What a take. Oh, taking my lure.
Sadly, the Cole's crown jewels of lures was snatched by one of the little brutes. Peter's demonstration of the ancient and fraught Norwegian art of lure fondling was quite mesmerising. But of course, the demonstration led to this sage advice.
He's just, don't get your hooks in your hand. That's a good tip for young players there. Bloody hell.
A bream was not to be outdone by the bullies on the block, and it decided to flatter the tailor by imitating their smashing surface strikes.
Oh, bream off the surface. Oh, fantastic. What a hit. What a hit. Let's get you around this side, dude. First ever bream on a surface lure.
At last. Palpitations, salivation, hopefully this will be something for degustation. No, way too small. This is way too small for dinner. Unless you dipped it in dark chocolate and created a flathead Mars bar and then deep fried it. Oh well. Hopefully this time it will be dinner. Dinner number 1. Certainly putting up more of a fight than the last little blighter. And yes, a legal-sized flathead. You can just see it in champagne batter, a golden delight.
Lucky dip, this one could be anything. Little baby flathead. And gone.
So having 2 rods out, and you hook a fish on one, and unfortunately or fortunately the other rod has a fish as well. Quite a few times I've had 2 fish create some kind of bizarre macrame as they crossed paths, and you spend half an hour trying to untangle it. So the first fish, just big enough for the dinner table, and then turn to the rod for the second fish. Interestingly, the second fish actually grabbed the lure when it was sitting on top of the water and it wasn't moving. Because I'd already hooked the first fish. And for whatever reason, it saw the lure floating on the surface and swam up and grabbed it. Peter.
Yeah. Oh. Hey, I got a stickfish. Yay, didn't think it was fighting much. Alright, so whatever this is, there's a phenomenal amount of weight. Oh! It's foul hooked. Nice flatty. Hooked on the side. Hey, there she goes. Just swiped at it, took it on the side.
And it's last orders for the day.
And on.
I've buggered off back to the landing site. Peter has one last cast. Oh, for a fish cleaning table. Two patrons sitting waiting for a feed.